Shut up and sit down.
Boom. Hello, Trinity. Hello, everybody. I am the street certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado here with you. This is an episode of the Couch Live. It's Dope and Dharma with another Couch Live edition of Dope and Dharma. Here with my partner, the Dharma guy, Trinity Phillips. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on?
Excellent. So right now we're broadcasting on 1060 AM WOKB out of Orlando, and of course 100.7 FM out of Orlando. But we like to share it with you guys out here as well. Facebook. Where can they see it? Hear it?
Currently live. It's going to be on obviously WOKB, and then in addition to that is YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, all under Dope and Dharma. And then, of course, you can catch it later on under all of your major podcasting platforms under Dope and Dharma.
That's right. Podcast.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Everybody's got one.
You should just be a simple radio show and TV show. Now it's podcast. It
Yep.
makes everything more complicated because it demands more work. Even though it's kind of easier, I can work from home.
Yeah.
I don't
What's
mind
up, Richard?
Oh, well, that's a name we haven't seen in a long time. Richard Coleman, North Carolina, on Facebook Live. What is up, Mr. Coleman? Where has he been?
I don't know.
Where's Mr. Coleman been? I was starting to wonder what happened to him.
He missed our politics one last week.
Well, what was that?
Yeah, so he missed our politics show last week. You might want to go look that one up, Richard.
Yeah. I got somebody who wants to come on the show when he's on next time. So we can have both on and we can just watch it happen.
Nice.
Hola, abuelo. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you, Richard. So today, Trinity, I got some questions for you because this is,
Sure.
Obviously called the show. For those of you that don't know, the Couch Live is a show that's been on since 1999. Long time, longest running show on addiction and recovery and mental health and in all of the country, I believe. I can't find one longer running than this. And so we cover all different kinds of topics and issues and stuff like that. And, I had some questions come in my head because we called today's show Hide and Seek because a lot of people, they may not know they're hiding, but they're hiding, and you've seen ostriches hide their head, right, Trinity?
Well, not like in person, but I mean, I know that's the joke.
Right.
I mean, yes, I've seen like.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, I don't really know that it's true. I
don't know that it's true. I know that's the quote unquote myth.
Right. But but obviously, and we're on radio, so we can't use all the words, the colorful words. But like when they hide their head, they're showing their behind still. Sure. What I mean? That's still exposed, and that's really the way it is. It's a perfect metaphor for the reality of when we think we're actually hiding. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it with the Dharma guy and kind of get your perspective on some of this, because it's all different kinds of ways people hide, right? So let's just start with that. What are some of the ways that when you deal with clients or when you deal with people, Trinity, that you've seen people hide?
I would say the two biggest ones that I see would be avoidance and denial would be probably the two biggest ones that I see.
Right.
They avoid the situation, the person, the topic, whatever it might be, and just pretend like it doesn't exist. And then denial would be, of course, just denying that there's a problem to begin with. Just pretend like everything's okay and it's just not happening or it's not true. Things of that nature.
Right. And from your understanding, does it tend to resolve the situation? Does it make it worse? Like, what is the usual outcome?
Best case scenario is it doesn't get any worse, but it doesn't get any better. Worst case scenario, and most likely, is it continues to fester and become a bigger problem. I mean, by not dealing with it, typically, I mean, I don't know what it might be in this situation, but if it's involving another individual or a relationship of some sort, it typically gets worse because the other person is going to create their own narrative as to why you're responding or not responding the way you are.
Exactly.
It's typically going to be the worst possible narrative that they can come up with. Not on purpose, but that's just how the brain works. They're not talking to me because they don't like me or whatever it might be. So yes, it typically snowballs and gets much worse if you avoid it or you're in denial.
I mean, is it a fair statement to say that we all do it to some degree? I mean, is that a fair statement?
Sure.
I mean, I know I do it.
Feels good, man. Of course.
I mean, sometimes you just want to put something off. You know what I mean? You don't want to deal with it at the moment, right?
course.
You know, but sometimes it could be just a little bit deeper than that. Sometimes you're actually hiding from something that by not dealing with it, like you said, it continues to get worse. You can actually manifest what you're trying to avoid,
Sure.
right? You can actually create the thing to be a reality. Like you know how we have these self-fulfilling prophecies all the time. I think that as humans, right? We say, "Oh, I don't want to ask that person this question because I know what they'll say. They'll say this." So they do whatever they do, present it however they do, and then get the outcome that they were afraid of getting in the first place, and they think that they just see. I told you when you probably created it by the whole way that you did it, by the your tone, by the words that you used, by delaying whatever you were going to say. Um, and unfortunately, I think sometimes we hide in ways that are very harmful to ourselves in such a way that some people do drink to hide. Some people escape by drinking. Some people
Sure.
escape in drug use. Some people escape in maladaptive behaviors, poker rooms or gambling places, or just not coming home. And even when you are home, you're not really
Sure.
home. Like I've treated a lot of people that said that the stuff that they were using, even when they were there with their family, they weren't really present. They were kind of like gone. And so like when you talk to people about hiding, I mean, what are some of the recommendations that you have, or some of the things that you say that could just help them, I guess, just come to at least admit that they're not really working to get what they want, unless what they want is to make the problem bigger, which I don't think that's what a lot of people are seeking. Do you?
I've personally never run into that. Not to say it doesn't exist out there somewhere, maybe, but no, I don't think that's the typical desired outcome.
Nobody's ever told you, I just want to make it work?
No, I
No,
haven't.
not one.
I've not run into that very often.
Okay.
Maybe one somewhere. I don't remember. But yes. No, I think. I don't know, man. Normally, if somebody's come to me, like if my son comes to me and there's a situation, or my daughter comes to me and they're like, "Hey, X, Y, and Z is taking place, but I'm not really
Right.
wanting to talk about it or whatever."
Right.
I personally usually evaluate it somehow.
Mm.
First and foremost, is it something that needs to be addressed, right? Because that's the other thing too, is not everything needs to be addressed all the time. There is picking your battles, but you can't.
Amen to that one, Trinity.
Yeah, but you can't. Not everything needs to be addressed, and not everything can be ignored. And so you have to kind of, walk that fine line of, is this problem something that I can ignore, or is this something that has to be addressed? And you typically do that, I would say, by the outcome. Does this mean something to me? Is the
Right.
relationship mean something to me? Is the outcome important to me? And if it is, then obviously you can't let it slide. You have to address it. And I think oftentimes we're so afraid of the outcome, like what the outcome might be. So what? That's typically what not in those exact words, but so what? It's going to happen or it's not going to happen, but deal with it. The fear of the unknown looming over you is never ending, and it's constant, and it just stays and stays and stays, and it's so heavy.
Right.
To whereas whatever it is, if you just rip the Band-Aid off essentially and you deal with it, there is a finite end to it. It's going to come to an end. At some point, you're going to have whatever that situation might be. And then there's going to be a life afterwards. Now, what that life looks like, that's dependent upon a whole bunch of things. But at least there is a path forward. Whereas if you're avoiding it, there is no path forward. It's just monkey sitting on your shoulder the entire time, and it never goes away.
Yeah, you're not really controlling it. I mean, you think you're controlling
No.
it, but you're not really in control of it because, like you said, I mean, it's still present.
Mm-hmm.
You made me think of Albert Ellis right there, and he's one of the fathers of psychology, just because he used to just give you the worst case scenario to his clients. Like up until the day, I think he passed, but up until his very late ages, he was still seeing patients in New York, and he said that he would give them the worst case scenario kind of situation, like make all of all right, so you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, and then he goes, now what? Okay, that's the worst it is.
Yep.
What happens now? And once he paints the picture as negative it could be, I mean, how far worse can it get? But until then, you're living as if these things are truth anyway.
Yep.
You know, so he just takes a real rational approach to just looking at something, and that's the way I look at it. I think that's a perfect word for it. Just take a real rational approach at what you're trying to do here. Like, what are you really trying to seek? Like, typically when you hide, what are you seeking when in your typical hiding stuff? And I'm not asking you to divulge any specifics, but like, what do you usually what promotes you to hide? Is there something specific?
I can't think. I don't make a habit of hiding to this point in my life. I'm just too old to hide.
Right.
I just find myself really getting better at what I care about, what I don't care about.
Right.
So if it's something I truly care about, I don't typically hide from it. If it's something that I don't really care about, then I typically try not to hide from it. But I would say my motivation is the same as everybody else's when it comes down to it, and that's peace. You know, what I think to be peace. I'll avoid something or I'll not address it because I don't want it to affect my peace. You know, I don't want to create an issue. If it's manageable or tolerable at the moment, then I don't want to do something that's going to make it unmanageable or intolerable. That would probably be my motivation.
You know, I like having responses and answers so often that I think the things that I hide the most from right now, if I had to guess, would be, or had to say something, is that just when I don't have the full answer, I don't have, you know, if I don't have a good understanding of it.
Right.
You know, and not that the hiding gives me time to do it, because it's not like I'm over in the wings working on it. You know, because for me, it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Sure.
You know, I see squirrels everywhere. So, but for the moment, if I didn't address a situation at the moment, it's only because I didn't have the response,
Sure.
you know, that I was okay with. And then I just forget. And then after that, then it's like, but when I think about it again, it's, oh yeah, I got to address it. And then I got to assess, now, do I bring it up now? I mean, like, it's over, right? And you kind of hope that like it's done, it's over, but it's not really, you know, like, hello, Nancy Bridger, how you doing? Facebook Live. She says, pick your battles. Yeah, you got to pick your battles.
Pretty much.
You know, but is it always a battle, or is it sometimes I think we try to pick our conversations more than picking our battles. I
Sure.
think as humans, we naturally just try to always control the conversations. Like, if we don't want to talk about something, we just say, can we talk about it later? I know I do that part a lot. Now, that one I do all the time. Like, you can ask my wife, like, you know, she'll try to, because to me, her timing just sucks. I mean, I just don't like her timing, right? Like if the first thing you do when you wake up is ask me some complicated financial question or thing that's going to involve like a lot of thinking, I'm like, now? Like, you just woke up. I mean, like, can we just like wait a while before we have this conversation? You know, so
Sure.
I don't really consider that hiding, but I consider I consider that pushing off and delaying. Like, I do that more often. The hiding stuff, I think, is the stuff that I think is a little bit deeper, of when people try to hide the fact that they're depressed, right? Like, seriously depressed. And what they don't realize is they're actually showing signs of something, but it's making all of us question what we're seeing. Like, we see something in the person.
Right.
We see something going on, but we don't really know what it is. So as humans, and I'm a human, we tend to personalize it and to think,
Sure.
it must be about me, right? They must have an issue with me. They must have something going on with me, and it has nothing to do with me. But I may personalize it as me. So we have to realize that when we do this stuff, we're giving off some sort of energy that's not comfortable. You know, we may not be getting the full energy which you're really experiencing, which is you're sad, you're lonely, you're depressed, you're frustrated, something. But what we are seeing is that you're being different with us. And when you're being different with us, we tend to personalize it and start trying to figure out why that would be. And that may trigger your own response. You know, so that's probably the most common way that people hide. Would you say that that's true, or do you have another thing that you think is more common?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, I guess. When I think of hiding, also, when you were talking, one of the things that popped into my head when it comes to hiding would be those uncomfortable truths that deep down inside we might know to be true, but if we don't say it out loud or if we don't address it, then it's not really true, kind of a thing. Because I'm trying to think of people in my life I've interacted with or whatever, and there's like I don't know, there's people I've known that have been in relationships that like are too long, toxic, and they know it needs to end.
That are too long.
Well, it's too long. It should
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Should have ended a long time ago.
Yeah, like I know people like that where it's like, you know, they make up all of these weird excuses, even though deep down inside they know it's over, but they don't want to address the over part. They don't want to do all the stuff moving on. So they'll hide from that kind of thing and pretend like it's okay or whatever, even though deep down inside they know it's true. Obviously that was a relationship example, but there's others. Like there's just, I don't know, something going on at work or whatever it might be. Even things around the house, repairs. I don't know, just things that deep down inside, like if somebody puts a gun to your head and forces you to be 100% honest.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know that there's a problem there, but then throughout your day-to-day life, you kind of just don't deal with it or you pretend like it's not. So to me, I think that's what I think of when I think of hiding. It's just, deep down inside there's an issue. You're just not addressing it.
Yeah. I like to say that I'm a person that knows how to get what I want. And I think that if I think about hiding, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it that I'm seeking if I'm doing it? What is it I'm really seeking? Do I just want everyone just to forget? Like, can you just like not bring it up again? Can you just not talk about it again? You know what I mean? What is the goal? Because even if someone doesn't bring up something that may need to be discussed, it doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. It doesn't mean that they're not, waiting for you to bring it up. I can think of some, I'm trying to go in my head and think about some serious conversations that have had to happen in my life. And I can tell you, if you would have told me early on in my life that having some of these deeper, heavier conversations were going to lift some sort of weight, I would have just said, that sounds like psychobabble, right? like
Sure.
what weight is it really going to lift? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, because there's so much that I don't think that, like you said, that needs to be discussed. I don't think everything needs to be talked about. Right. Hey, Marissa, how you doing? Marissa's on Facebook Live. But there are things that there are discussions that I've had with people that, what a dramatic difference once the conversation was had. I mean, like a dramatic difference, not just a little difference, just like a whole different level of connectivity just by talking about it. You know what I mean? And the ones that I can think of in my head, they're not necessary to share, the personal, but once they were had, I mean, it really was so much better on the other side of it. And the connection was a lot deeper on the other side of that conversation. And it didn't go anything like I thought it was going to go. Because of course I always predict how it's going to go, right? I'm a human. Sure. Of course. I always feel like I have a crystal ball, like, oh, they're going to say this, I'm going to say this. And I work not to do that, by the way, because, doing this for a living, you're constantly thinking like that, right? It's part of the thing. It's what you would tell someone else, but telling someone else and telling yourself is two different things, right?
Forest through the trees.
Amen to that. So I work really hard to be like, nah, don't predict. They just have it. And I think most people would describe me as somebody who's not afraid of confrontation. I'm not afraid of hard conversations. I have hard conversations all the time. I'm not afraid of questions. I'm not afraid of taking your questions. I'm not afraid of asking the questions. I'm really not even afraid of hearing what you got to say, because you can't do anything to me that my brain can't do worse to myself. And I think once you realize something like that, it changes relationships with people. Once you realize, or at least once I realized, that the person I most have an issue with is myself, and the person that can hurt me worse than anybody else is myself, you really ain't got jack on that. I mean, there's really nothing you can say or do to me that's worse than what I have done and said to myself. And I think that's what makes it a lot easier for me not to hide, for me personally, not to hide. To hide from what? For what? Like, what would I be hiding for? Like, what am I actually going to get out of that?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think, I don't know, my ability to compartmentalize and disconnect, I guess, from an early age kind of helps me a lot in that situation, because it causes me to, I've never really been afraid of confrontation either. And that's typically, I think, what a lot of people are afraid of, and it's uncomfortable. So they try to avoid things that will eventually lead to that. I actually went through a period of my life where I sought out confrontation. So I'm a veteran when it comes to confrontation. I used to like it a lot. But yeah, I think my ability to compartmentalize and kind of just disconnect and not even really worry about it helps me in that area, whether it be healthy or not. Who knows? It's up for debate, I guess.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I mean, just because you can do it doesn't mean it's working for you, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? That's I'll have to look back on my life when I'm like 80 years old if I make it that far and decide, Because like I said, so that's what I've learned over the years is just some things that you might think are incredibly important really aren't that important. You
Mhm.
know,
Right.
some like you said, some conversations or some things just don't need to be had. It all once again, I think the most like if I'm giving advice to my kids or if I'm talking to them and they're asking for insight, friends, whatever it might be, it really, really for me comes down to what does it matter? The end goal here, like what is it something that
Right.
if it's a relationship, if it's a thing, if it's a job opportunity, whatever it is it how important is it to you?
Right.
Is it something that you genuinely want to work to keep or to maintain? Or is it something that you're willing to let go? Like if it wasn't there, how big of a deal is it to you? I think that is paramount because when I was younger, I thought everything meant everything. I
Right.
wanted to be right all the time. So
Right.
every opportunity to be right, every little
Right.
tiny confrontation, I was willing to have it and I was willing to argue.
Mhm.
Didn't matter. As I've gotten
Mhm.
older, my priorities have shifted. The things I care about shifted.
Right.
And some things that maybe in the past I would have clung on to and had those arguments, if you will, or
Mhm.
confrontations or discussions. As I'm where I'm at now in my life, it's just like whatever, dude.
Right.
It's not worth it. I move on with my life. That was cool for what it was. Now I'm just moving
Right.
on to something else. Kind of just depends. And I think that's something we all have to answer ourselves because some things are more important than we think they are, and some things are less important than we think they are.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot right there. That's a big sentence right there. Because I think the things that we sometimes feel are not that important are actually very important, and the things that we think are important are really not that important. We tend to be on the wrong side of that, and unfortunately, it takes life issues sometimes to kind of set that stuff straight.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's the old weddings and funerals kind of situation, right? It
Sure.
takes celebrations or it takes mutual mourning to kind of put things in perspective, health problems or whatever,
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
But when I'm thinking about some of this, I'm thinking about someone hiding from me or hiding in front of me, and I'm going back to the fact that you see something and sense something, right? And I really want to reach out to anybody right now that's kind of holding on to something deep that's kind of just hurting themselves. It's hurting them and it's killing them, uh, because we can see it, we can
Yeah.
feel it. You know what I mean? You're not getting what you want out of the deal because we can hear it in your tone when you talk to us. Like it's that old thing, like when someone says good morning or good morning. You know,
Sure.
well, yeah,
Sure.
the words you said were good morning. And when you repeat the story, you may say, all I said was good morning. But
Yeah.
no, but if I heard the tone, good morning, it's like, gee, your tone
Yeah.
is rough. You know what I mean? And I think we do
Sure.
stuff like that all the time, not realizing, well, let me take that back. I think a lot of times we do realize that we're giving it off.
Sure.
I'm going to go to something specific. And Madre, if you're watching or if you watch this later on or hear it later on, you're a great example. I'm just going to use you right now. Maida means mom, so
Oh boy.
I'm going to use it real quick because
Oh boy.
I tell her that mom, when you're talking, sometimes you should wear glasses, and so she laughs because she goes, "Why?" I said, "Because I can see it all in your eyes. Like when you got issues with somebody, you like telegraph it. Like my mom has zero poker face. Like
Yeah, I can see that.
she could be somewhere talking about somebody, and she's showing the person that she hates them or does not like them. And I'm like, you can't do that.
I
She
can
goes,
see
what?
that.
I didn't say that. I didn't do that. I'm like, no, you're saying it here, even when you're nice here. You know what I mean? And so those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Like I think that when we're hiding from some sort of truth within us, or we're hiding from some painful thing that's like destroying us on the inside, and we think, for their sake, I'm not going to let them know, or for their sake, I'm not going to. You're showing something, and sometimes intentionally, like, and then you get mad at us for not saying something about that. Like, why didn't they ask me how I'm doing? Why didn't they care? Well, because you're not saying it, and if you're not saying it, I'm not going to ask you. I'm one of those guys, at least. I know my wife
I get in
says,
trouble for that all the time.
"You really?" Yeah, my wife
Yeah.
tells me, you should ask them. You should ask this. I don't do that. I no. I'm the kind of helper that you got to ask me for help. I'm not going to go solicit because if I did that I feel way too much out there. You know what I mean? I'm in the business of seeing and feeling a lot. So if I'm out there, I can sense things all the time. I'm not going to go to every person and go, "Oh, you're in pain, aren't you? Oh, you look like you need someone like me." No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to ignore that it even happened in front of me. I'm going to go about my business. You want something from me? You're going to have to ask me. You're going to have to say something to me to get me to go. I could be in the same room with you, and you could be struggling tremendously, and you're probably not going to get that deeper question from me. And I don't know what that is really. Maybe I have to go get that analyzed. Is that what that is? Other than the fact that it's like I have to have someone ask me for the help for me to give it. I don't solicit.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I probably take that to the extreme, and it's probably, like you said, it's probably something I should look into.
Yeah,
but
yeah. We're therapizing right now, Trinity.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go to therapy after this.
Yeah, well, the only reason why I say that is because it's a non-issue to strangers, obviously, but to people you're close with, I think they oftentimes expect you to initiate that or ask that.
Yeah.
And over my time, I've learned to I'm not assuming anything. I'm not asking anything.
Right.
Like one of my buddies used to say when we were at work, I'm a computer, give me a command. Like I'm not showing initiative. Nope. I don't get paid to do. You ask me and I'll tell you. But other than that, I'm not assuming anything. I'm not. And I think that sometimes only people I don't do that with are my kids. Right. They're the only ones, and only because I feel a sense of responsibility that it is they might not know how to express. They might not know how to ask. They might not know something's a problem, and so my kids are the only ones that I will go above and beyond. If I see that there's a difference in their affect, I will say something to them and ask them, but nobody else. And I get in trouble. Nope, not even her. I get in trouble with that all the time.
Yeah.
That's just because I figure, look, man, if it's something you want me to know, you'll tell me.
Yeah.
That's just my thing. Because over my years of life, I think I've gotten mixed reviews from that, right? Like if I ask you a few times and I'll get like let's say you're not in the mood to talk and you'll give me a little bit of an attitude, like, whoa, okay, well, like I'm the type of person, if I'm going to put my hand out, then you're going to slap it away. I'm not going to continue to put my hand out there. Like I'm not going to do that. And so, yes, if I in my lifetime, I've had many instances where you'll reach out to try to help and somebody will snap at you or give you something snarky in response. So I've learned over my years, I just, no.
Yeah.
If you ask, I'm there and I'll help. I'll do everything I can in my power, but I'm like a vampire, dude. I got to be brought in. You got to invite me in. I'm not going to just come in.
Is that true about vampires? Wait,
I don't know.
True?
I mean, that's what the mythology is.
Is it? What is?
Well, they're right next to the ostriches with their heads in the sand. Like they're all out there together. All these myths, I guess. So.
Okay. Yeah. What is it? Where's Leo going? Well, good night. Where's Leo at? Did he say good night, fellas?
Oh, he's gonna go sirloins.
Wait, what is a?
It's not good night. It's good night to us.
Yeah, yeah.
It's goodbye.
Sirloin steak Midwest style. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
You're gonna have to come down here and cook me a steak Midwest style, Leo, from St. Louis. What, St. Louis ribs? I guess that's why they call them St. Louis ribs.
I guess.
I don't know what Midwest style means. That sounds bland to me. I don't think Midwest reeks of juicy or flavorful. People say Texas barbecue or like Southern, barbecue. I don't think people say Midwest steak.
Yeah, I've never heard of that myself.
Oh,
Blackstone. I don't even know what that means, but yeah, I don't know. I just I don't really typically go out of my way to ask. I also, if I'm honest, man, I mean, the older I get as well, like I'm noticing I have less and less desire to play the games. In other words, if somebody's around me and they're sighing or they're humming and hawing, I don't want to. I don't want. Well, what's wrong? Like, no, man. Like you got. Yeah, if you got something to say it, man. Like I'm just not interested anymore in trying to navigate that and trying to pull it out of somebody. And because to me that feels very manipulative.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
If you got something to say it. If not, then I'm gonna move about my day.
That's what I'm gonna do. I like that. See, we woke up the Midwesterners. Michael Maynard also from the Midwest. Kansas City is known for its steaks and barbecue. Maybe to you guys.
Sure.
I don't know about to the rest of us. I don't know.
Well, I've heard Kansas City barbecue. I've also heard Memphis, stuff like that. I've Carolinas as well. But I've never heard Midwest style.
Yeah, but they're not really opening. Yeah, the word Midwest in there. Yeah, but they're not really opening up Kansas City restaurants.
Well, I mean,
There's a
I'm
Texas
thinking,
Roadhouse.
I'm
There's a
thinking of all
Texas
the,
Roadhouse. I
I'm
don't
thinking
know
of all
if a
the
Kansas City
barbecue sauces.
Roadhouse.
I'm thinking of all the barbecue sauces I see in like the
Yeah.
grocery aisle.
Yeah.
There's usually Memphis style, Kansas
Yeah,
City
the
style.
mustard base. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, vinegar base.
One's like
mustard.
hickory, one's tangy.
Yeah, like I said, come on, Midwesterners, come bring us some of that food, and
Right.
let us judge it. Let's put it
I'll take
together.
a steak, man.
I'll
Like,
take a steak. I'll take
yeah.
it. Like, he's talking about local. All right, we got you.
Sure.
So here's one of the things on it is like, again, I like to get my needs met, right? And I think it's healthy for people to at least get your needs met. But getting your needs met doesn't necessarily mean trying to control the entire situation. I think me getting my needs met, like being vulnerable, helps me get my needs met because I don't always know what I need. Is that a fair statement? I mean, I don't know about you if you always know what you need, but I don't really know what I need.
No.
I know what I want. That's usually pretty clear. You know, I want this, I want that, I want you to say this, I want you to give me this, I want you to, all that stuff. I want you to say this. But what I need, I haven't been right on that my entire life.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I'm being serious. The things that I've needed to continue to move forward on this planet in the healthy way that I feel like I have been, I haven't been able to predict it. Though it's usually something I didn't want to do. It's usually admitting something I didn't want to admit. Taking responsibility for things that I felt I didn't need to or want to. And those have been the things that have been the most fulfilling. I think you and I have said it many times on this show. Things like if I would look at my life, if I was a 17-year-old, if the 17-year-old me was looking at my life right now, no matter how great I feel in this life that I'm in, the 17-year-old me would look at it like, what a failure. Dude, for real?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It'd be hard to explain, the appreciation and the gratitude and all the words that I would use to describe this would all sound real corny to me at 17.
Sure.
And I don't know if that happens to everybody, but I know for me, it's pretty a dramatic difference of what I appreciated then and what I wanted then compared to what fulfills me right now. Do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah. And I would probably say rightfully so. I would hope, right? Like I would hope at 17, I don't want the same things I want now.
Right.
At 17, I was still building. I was still aspiring. I was still kind of like, trying to make my mark on this world type of thing. Whereas now, I'm more reflective. I'm more preparing for the next stages, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, dude, come on, man. We've got shows of me saying I didn't want to be married and I didn't want kids, and here I am married with 4 kids. So I mean, and a grandkid. So yeah, I didn't want any of those things. I remember distinctly saying I would never ever live my life without a motorcycle, and here I haven't had one for going on 10 years.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely. But you mentioned something earlier that I think was very poignant. That I don't know if it hit the way it should have.
Okay.
The vulnerability word.
Yeah.
I don't think we're good at that. Like as a society, we're like trained against that. We're excellent at sympathy, not good at empathy at all, man. It's where we desperately want connection, and yet the one thing that gives you connection, empathy, we're not good at, and the one thing that gives you distance is sympathy, and we're excellent at that. Sympathy, meaning, oh wow, I'm sorry, you're going through that. That's the separating between you and me. Empathy, wow, I'm here for you, kind of a thing. We're terrible at that, and we're so guarded. We're so afraid to be vulnerable with one another. Most times when we speak, we're not really saying what we actually think and feel. We're saying what we think the other person should hear about what we think and feel. We're not good at being vulnerable, and we're not good at being empathetic to those being vulnerable around us. We're just terrible at it.
How are you at that now? Being vulnerable?
Better than I've ever been in my life. Some habits are hard to break, growing up in a rough way kind of does not lend itself to being vulnerable. So in many ways that other people find it difficult to be vulnerable, I find very easy, but then other ways, some people might find it very simple. I find very hard. So it's a mixed kind of bag for me.
And for me, vulnerability to me has been one of those things that is like a muscle that I did not know that I had that would get stronger. Like it
Right.
feels really good. Like I don't even know how to explain it. That's one of those things that is really difficult to explain and would be very difficult to explain to the younger me. That vulnerability, by me being vulnerable, by me expressing myself, by me not being afraid to sound weak or to sound small, whatever word you like to use that sounds negative to a 17-year-old young man trying to be macho and be a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
All that vulnerability stuff, right, feels really good in the pocket. And I think we've had a discussion. We've had multiple discussions before where I said that, I feel comfortable being as soft as I can be, knowing I'm just not soft. So I can feel like being soft. And if you don't understand the definition of soft that I'm using, it's not for you. Just let us have a conversation here. But there's a level of softness that I would never felt like I could have, but yet
Sure.
by allowing myself to feel like, look, if you're a dork, you're a dork. I don't care how cool you're trying to be. Look, let's just get real with this. There's a lot of people out there playing pretend, playing imposter, and no matter what you're trying to do and trying to act, you're still who you think we can't see. We see it, bro.
Sure.
You can't fake that. So if you're okay and comfortable in your skin, and if you're just a good person, cool person, whatever, that's gonna come off anyway. If you're a strong person, that's going to come off anyway. So you could act and talk as weak as you want. If you're strong, you're strong. If you're confident, you're confident. If you're secure, you're secure. But if you're insecure, I don't care how big, strong, or anything else you are. If you're insecure, that's coming off. You can't hide that. That's something that if you don't work on, it's like all of our spidey senses are going off. You're doing nothing to try to hide that. There's nothing you can do. You could put a facial tattoo on the front of your face that says, "I hate the world. I'm a tough man," and we would still look at you and go, "What a poor baby."
Right.
What a sad guy. You know what I mean? You see the pain.
Yeah. The only caveat I would say to one of the things you said at the beginning there is about how good it feels to be vulnerable. To me, it does. Well, the only caveat I would put to that is I think for most people it feels good to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. If it's received well.
Well, you got to be in a safe.
Yeah, if it's not received well, like if you surround yourself with people who aren't healthy enough to be empathetic and to receive that, if what you get instead is rejection or ridicule, things of that nature, being vulnerable absolutely feels terrible, and it just reinforces the idea of I don't want to be vulnerable,
right?
And I think that is kind of the problem. Is I don't think a lot of people know how to be receptive to somebody who's being vulnerable with them.
Right.
And I think that's what it's like a weird vicious circle that we get in, and it starts early on in like elementary school. Is we'll be vulnerable, we get rejected, and rejected. Some people might be hearing rejection and think, oh, I asked her out on a date. No, rejection comes in many forms. You could offer your connection and somebody doesn't receive it, then that's rejection. Doesn't mean that the person implied it to be rejection or knew that they're rejecting you. But you felt rejected in that moment, and that feeling is very real, regardless of what their intentions might be. And so, if you're not addressing that, then that right there is the first lesson you learn of maybe I shouldn't really be as vulnerable anymore, because that hurt. I didn't like that one very much. And then you just continue to get harder and harder and harder, and then as society grows, we get worse and worse and worse at dealing with that. So like I said, yes. If it's received well and you offer it, it could be an amazing cathartic kind of a thing that happens.
Right.
But if it isn't received well, you might want to keep it hidden.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna keep playing with that line of thought that you have there, and I'm gonna say that I've worked to create a safe environment for myself. Sure. Right. There's a lot of talk of safe space out there, right? There's a lot of therapists that say safe space.
Yes.
You can't force a safe space. A safe space you got to create the safe environment. We can't create it for you. Like, I don't know what your safe space looks like. Safe space doesn't simply mean allow you to say whatever you got to say, and everybody goes, "Oh, I love you. Oh, let's hug." That's not a safe space.
It's an enabling space.
Yeah, exactly. A safe space only you can create. You got to create the people around you that are trustworthy. You got to create your social environment and your support system. And when you create a healthy environment around you, then you can feel free to be vulnerable. Yeah. But until you've created that, until you've worked through the things that make you fight everyone, make you fight everything, you're not gonna be safe because again, who you're not safe from is yourself,
Sure.
right? Like as many flaws as I can see in my face in the mirror, I don't pick them apart. Like they don't bother me. I don't sit there looking them in the mirror and go, "Oh my god." I can't even think of the last time that I got frustrated about some flaw on my face. And I got spots now. After I'm an old man. I got brown spots coming up all over the place. I got, you know what I mean? I got
Sure.
more flaws now than I ever had, and yet I'm like, okay, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I've had a dad bod since I was what 9.
Yeah, I got this massive crack in my butt that won't go away.
And I have, it's not like it's like I don't look at it and go like I look at like what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's those real simple things. I can't even think of the last time that my the thinness of my legs or my wrists ever bothered me. You know what I mean? I can't even think of the last time that bothered. Those are things that I said that when there comes a level of security, you just be real open and honest and say, I'm not going to hide anymore because you all can see it. Whatever
Sure.
I'm going to hide from, you can see anyway. The only thing is, I'm going to think I'm controlling the dialogue. I'm going to think I can control the situation. And that's what I think my anger did back when I was young. I think by being angry and fighting, then you just had to like come at me a certain type of way because I created the dialogue, right? If I created it by confrontation with you, then you're already responding to confrontation. It didn't allow any time for vulnerability. It didn't allow any time for honesty. It didn't allow any time for connectivity because our connection was based on volatility, right? Or partying, because partying was easy. Like if you party with someone and that's the only way you know them, but then you try to get sober with that person, they'd be like, you have nothing to talk about anymore. You know what I mean? Have you ever sat in a situation with somebody that you should be able to communicate with and you're like, I really have nothing to say to you. You know what I mean? Whereas there's some people you get around, it's just like blah 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 blah. Like you're just comfortable and you're talking and you're going on all different kinds of conversations. You know what I mean?
But well, I mean that's part of the other issue, right? Is you were saying you create that safe space for yourself. I don't think a lot of people know how to do that, right? I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. I don't think a lot of people know how to pick safe people. I think that hurt people, right? So like when we're hurt, we're traumatized, we're looking for certain things and we overlook red flags and we think that this person's good for us, friendship, relationship, whatever it might be.
Right.
Because your picker was broken, right? And I don't mean necessarily picker from a romantic sense, even though that's included in that.
Right.
But even your picker for friends, like my son, for instance, I'll see him sometimes pick some friends, and the kinds of friends that he'll try to gravitate towards sometimes are just not going to be good for him.
Right.
So I'm trying to, and I did the same thing when I was a kid. My mom had to kind of help me learn how to pick friends because I was picking friends because I thought they were cool. And what I thought was cool were the kids who were, not afraid to get in trouble and be, outlandish and things of that nature.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's a skill that we as a society collectively don't really have. And I think that we got to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to pick safe people. Right.
And kind of like getting to the end of this, I also got to a point where I always liked kind of being alone, but I didn't know how good it felt. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know if I was something wrong with me or why but I like alone time. I think you got to be comfortable by yourself and in silence. And man, and maybe that's an age thing, man. You get older, it's like, oh man, I really cherish my little alone time. You know what I mean? It's like recharging, it's calm, it's peaceful. And then I even further enjoy when I'm not alone then. So when I'm connecting with somebody and doing something with somebody and on a project with somebody. And so it's really good to have both those things feel good without it just having to be one way. You know what I mean? Like when I was ripping and running, I had to be ripping and running. Like any moment of downtime, I'd be like, I had to be intoxicated if you're going to sit there and do nothing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Whereas now I could just sit there, just, be doing nothing, or we could do something. Either way. And I think all those things are ways hiding can look all different kinds of ways. Hiding can be in the forms of behaviors. Hiding can be in the forms of substance. Hiding can be in relationships. There's a lot of people that hide in relationships. They hide from themselves just by constantly being in a relationship instead of just allowing themselves to not be in one for a while and just see who you really are, what you really want out of life. Because if you're always in a relationship, especially if you're always in new relationships, you're constantly being something. You're constantly portraying a character, You know, how honest can you really get when you're always trying to impress somebody? And then you might say, and I already heard them. Look, I just heard their thought, Trinity. I heard them say, I ain't trying to impress nobody. I don't care what they think. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you're one of those ones that were just listening to me right now and you said, man, I ain't trying to impress nobody. Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're the guy. If you thought that, you're the guy that struts when you're home all by your damn self. You're that guy. You're that guy that still tries to walk cool when you're all by yourself in the house. That's who you are. Whereas, you got to let yourself be a little dork, man. I'm telling you, by embracing all parts of you, the masculine, the feminine, the dorky, the cool, the funny, the sad, the curious, all the little parts that we all have parts of everybody. That's what allows us to connect with so many people. There's a little bit of everyone in you. Explore the parts that you haven't played with. Explore the parts of this life that you haven't fully given some attention. You may find one that's a little bit more fulfilling than the one you're in. And I think that's how we create that safe environment, that I feel like I've created a safe environment. I now feel very, very, very secure in the kind of guy I ended up being here right now at 54 years old, because I've explored all those different kinds. And this is the one that I sit best in. This is the one that most feels comfortable. These are the people. These are the subject matters. I love helping people. I love being there. I love having responses or answers. But when I don't know it, I'll be the first to say, I don't know, but it doesn't mean I don't know somebody who can help. And
Right.
those are the things that I like to do. What there's a longer one that I couldn't read real quick. What is Marissa saying?
She said, I think you're talking about this one. It says, too many people want to change everything about themselves. I'm glad I've never been that way.
Right. Yeah. When you're constantly just trying to, be for everybody else. I mean, that's how some people hide. Being a chameleon is one thing. Being a chameleon and hiding from yourself in the process is another. I think you do have to adapt to your situations, but that's not necessarily being a chameleon. That's just adapting to the right situation. In other words, when I'm around my mother, I speak one way. When I'm around, some guy friends, I speak a different way. When I'm around my kids, I speak a different way. That's not being other thing. That's not being phony. That's not being fake. That's just being responsible to the situations. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And I think that's healthy. And I think as, when you're younger and immature, you don't do that. You just try to be you, and you try to be what you think you are everywhere, because you're so busy telling the whole world who you are, what you are. Well, go to the mirror and tell that to yourself, because you're the only one that's buying it. We're not. We see what you are. We see who you are. No amount of substance and no amount of whatever you're giving off is going to prove anything to us. Because you know what? In reality, we don't care. We just don't. We're so busy looking and thinking about our own selves. We don't care as much as you think we do, and that's human. That's the human part that we try to fight. Right? It's like, wow, man, I want to care more. I want to embrace it more. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of selfishness in all of us.
I hear that.
And then we'll end it with Marissa's comment. Marissa's comment is perfect right there, right? I've been a people pleaser to do for everyone before myself, and I'm working on it. Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. I like
it. As long as by working on it means now you stop, being friendly and nice, because and that's how some people do it, right? Some people, they go all the way the opposite way. So final comments, Trinity.
Yeah, I just say, don't hide, man. It's not worth it. It's not working anyways. Pick your battles, find out if it's something that needs to be addressed or not. If it doesn't, then let it go, move on, stop obsessing over it. If it's something that needs to be addressed, stop waiting, address it, deal with it.
Yeah, unless you want to be sad and lonely, hiding is only going to make you sad and lonely, and more depressed, more frustrated and angry, and make you think that you are right because look how the world is. It's dark and dreary. No, you make it that way. If you stick your head in the sand, of course the world is dark and dreary. You can't see the sunrise. You can't see the sunlight. You can't appreciate it. So anyway, let's all enjoy ourselves. Have a good time. And, if you need to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Be a little vulnerable. What's it going to hurt? And definitely put the stuff down. If it ain't working by now, like if there's a lot of people that have been doing it for years, man, right? If it ain't working by now, it's not working for you. All right. All right, everybody. I got nothing left to say. Let's pass it on back to the boys at WOKB 1680 here in Orlando, and of course 100.7 FM on the Orlando dial, Trinity. But from here, Dope and Dharma, from all of us here at Dope and Dharma and the Couch Live edition of Dope and Dharma. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.